So we're going to talk about AI, specifically about some of these tools like ChatGPT. There's others that are like ChatGPT, but everybody's heard about ChatGPT. We're going to talk not about techniques this time. We did another training that's available that's kind of, what are some specific prompts or specific ways that you can, that you can use it in like particular applications. What we're going to talk about more today is how can we improve ourselves to really take advantage of these tools, right? There's certain ways that you can think about and ways you can approach using AI, and specifically this type of AI, that's going to help you be more effective with it. Okay, so that's kind of more of the focus of what we're going to talk about today. All right, so the tools are becoming just something over time. It's sort of like some of you were around when you started having the internet and web browsers and web searches and then Google. And when those first started coming out, it was like, oh, that's kind of cool, right? That you can go and find information about things. And then as time went on, and there were more and more and more things available on the internet, on the web, the web browsers like Google got to be, like Internet Explorer and then Google Chrome, they got to be more capable. There was a lot more information. The searches became a lot more easy to do. You could start to shop on the internet. It just started to become something that literally everybody used, except for like your 90-year-old grandmother, right? Email came along and like, ooh, that's kind of fun. You can send electronic messages to people. And now you don't have an email, sir? Right? There's still people who don't have an email, but it blows our mind that someone would exist in this life that doesn't. And I feel like that's kind of where we're going with these AI tools, right? Almost everybody uses Google at some point in their life. At some point, almost everybody is going to use ChatGPT or something like it. And so it's just going to come to be an expectation over time that, oh, you didn't go check with AI about that? All right. And so where your advantage is going to be is in using it well, right? So was anybody around when you thought, or when it was kind of like, oh, I read about that on the internet, right? And so the next part of that is, so it must be true. Well, you grow, you mature, you believe some things that aren't true, and you come to realize you can't believe everything you read on the internet. Well, same thing with AI. The only difference is with AI answers confidently, even though it has no idea what it's talking about. And even though it's running some math formulas, to spit out, what it thinks that you're wanting it to hear. At the end of the day, it's not as authoritative as it sounds. So you just want to make sure you're taking what it says with a grain of salt. And you want to think about it not only in what you're reading from it, but also in what you're putting into it. When we're thinking about how to use this tool, you just want to be thinking effectively. And so good prompts are going to lead to better, sort of the garbage in, garbage out, right? The better you put into these tools, the better the results are that you're going to get back. Okay, so we've got 10 tips that we're going to cover today. All right, tip number 1 is know when not to use an AI tool. So when you just go use a free version of these tools, they're programmed to learn from the things that you're asking it and the way that you're interacting with it. Okay, so first of all, you don't want to put anything into it that you don't want to show up for somebody else. Okay, that's one thing, and that comes especially when you're talking about any kind of potentially sensitive company data, right? Um, these tools have the ability for you to upload files or copy and paste into them. You don't want to use the free version of these tools with company information. If you have a use case, if you have a reason that you want to use AI and have it do some analysis on company information, there is a paid version that we can make available to you. IT uses the paid version because we do some analysis using, for example, we do give quality surveys that we send to every customer at the end of the process. And so every month we go take all the comments that customers do for us in certain categories and send that to the AI. And we get back in like what are customers thinking about us in these different regions in these different ways. And so that's an example of a really helpful tool for us. But we don't want to put that in the free version. We don't want anybody else to know, about kind of what customers are saying about us. So anyway, avoid sharing sensitive or personal data. If it's something that is maybe a little questionable ethically, legally, maybe don't use the tools for things like that. How do I go and steal such and such from my company is not a good idea to use AI for, right? Okay, so number two, what is it that you want? Like the more clear you can be on what it is, the results you're wanting to get back, kind of the better that you can communicate to the tool. So unlike with so with some tools, you have to really spell out everything that you want. Say with if you want to create a Word document, you just go type and you have full control over every aspect of that, and it's a very manual process. With the AI, you're describing to it what you want it to do for you, right? And so the less specific you are, the more it has to guess. So you don't want to tell it so much, what to do. You want it to tell it what you want to end up with. All right. So if you want it to summarize something, it's helpful for it to know like how long of a summary do you want. Okay. It could be like a full page. It could be a sentence. It's very flexible in that, and it's super helpful. But tell it what kind of summary. Maybe tell it, who's the audience for the summary. If you're wanting to do it for a kid, that's a different audience than for your manager or for an executive or for yourself. So yeah, just clarity on what it is that you want it to do. Number three, context helps. Okay. If you don't give it anything to work with, then it's just going to make a lot of assumptions and kind of do the best it can with what it's got. But if you can convey, who you are or who the audience is for what you want it to produce. Tone is actually kind of cool. You can say, make it friendly or make it professional. That gives it some clues about how it'll generate constraints. If you want it to tell you about the history of window replacement in the United States, it may be helpful if all you care about is in Louisiana or in the South United States, rather than in the whole world over the course of all time, things like that. So it's going to perform better when it understands the context of what you're looking for. Being specific and concrete. Vague prompts give vague results. So if you can tell it, you know, I want this to be a one paragraph or one sentence or 30% less, make it friendlier. That's all super helpful for getting more of what you specifically reserve. The other thing that's nice about these tools is it can be iterative. Okay, unlike with a Google search, where you go, type in what you want it to search for, and it gives you results, and you say, "Oh, that's not really what I meant," and you go back and try to make the search better, right? This actually remembers what you asked, which is so nice, right? So if it doesn't give you the results you're looking for, um, just go back and you can say, "Oh no, what I meant was," and it remembers your first, it remembers the whole conversation. So it's nice to be able to go back and forth, but ultimately it's trying to get to, you know, you giving it the thumbs up, right? And so it's going to come up with its best guess with the things that you've asked it already. But the more that you can give it, the more specifics you can give it, the better your results will be sooner than later. And so, yeah, that's tip number 5. Ask, review, and then refine. It can be a collaborator. It doesn't have to be just oh man, I better get this prompt right on the first try, right? So get it as, it's just really cool that it kind of does the best it can with what it's got. And here's the other thing. I don't know if this is one of the tips. Uh, like try to get better at it over time. Like when you're working with the tool, kind of have the mindset of I want to get better at getting good results out of this tool. And so, just think of how, like, think of it as a skill you're improving. It's like you're exercising a particular muscle, or as with using any tools, even like physical tools. You want to over time get better at using the tool. If you're sawing, you want it to get stuck less. So how do I get it to not stick as much when I'm doing this handsaw thing? Similar type of thing with the AI. Just see what's working and do more of that. Better questions. So this is kind of cool too. You can ask it, what am I missing in this situation, right? So you can upload a document or copy and paste, something that you've written, and you can say, hey, what's missing in here? How can it be better? Here's my situation. Can you give me, 3 options for doing this, or 5 ideas for handling this particular situation, or for naming this presentation. I said, hey, can you give me, let's brainstorm some titles for this that are, a little fun, entertaining, or memorable. Better questions, better answers. Examples help, all right? So I found this particularly with coming up with writing. So every week we have a manager meeting, and I am responsible for generating the notes for those meetings. And sometimes we talk about a lot of things. And so I've got one AI that is transcribing, the recording of the thing. And so I'll take that transcription and send that to the AI and say, hey, can you summarize this? And it's super helpful for the AI to know, kind of have some examples of what I've written up before. So it can see that I use certain type of bullets and certain type of headings, and the way that I break down, how I phrase things. It really helps it to be able to tailor that output. And so if you can give it examples of what you're looking for, that's a really cool way to have it, to shorten the process, to make it more productive. You can give it examples of tone and style and formatting. Yeah, they dramatically improve the accuracy of what you're looking for. And that happens. It's also the case for if you want to, create charts from data. Anyway, this is another cool feature that you can that you can use of these tools. You can tell it to pretend like they're, you know, a such and such type of person. Pretend that you're an expert in, you know, window installation. Pretend that you're a famous, you know, business consultant. Pretend that you're a therapist. You know, act as a project manager. Um, it's able to, you know, tailor its thing to, you know, somehow it's able to sort of give output as if it's, you know, this type of person. If you want ideas, then you can say, hey, let's brainstorm this, you know, this situation. If you want it to teach you something, tell it, hey, could you, you know, can you teach me how to whatever? Pretend like I'm, you know, you're a sixth grade teacher, like the best sixth grade teacher, or something like that. If you want it to summarize, just ask it to do that. And then again, as we talked about, you know, early on, uh, don't take it as gospel, whatever it gives you. And it's really good at sounding like it knows what it's talking about, and it's giving you really authoritative, factual information. Um, there are different AI tools. Who's heard of Grok? Okay. So, you know, Grok is associated with X, what used to be Twitter, and they're building it specifically to be as accurate, you know, like truth seeking as possible, right? Let me just tell you, they're not there yet. All right. And it is a potentially helpful tool. I think they are attempting to make it sort of, you know, unbiased in certain ways. But in terms of factual, uh, it's just not there yet. And ChatGPT is the same way. You know, if you ask it about something, any of these tools, if you ask it about something very current, or even not even super very current, it will not necessarily give you factual information. You can go back and challenge it and say, hey, I know for a fact that this thing that you just said is not correct. You know, today is, you know, December of 2025, and you know, it'll go back and say, oh yeah, you're right. You know, I didn't have updated information. Let me go check it. So yeah, anyway, just think critically about what it gives back to you. It can be wrong, but it'll be wrong with confidence. So important, you know, always verify your facts and your logic. You can say, and I've said this. Oh, I checked with AI about that, and it's you know, I learned that. Whatever. Well, that's again, I read it on the internet, right? It's not necessarily true just because AI said that's what was the case. But it really sounds confident when it gives you those answers. Okay, so applying this at work, what are some things that you can use this tool for, hopefully to help you with your work? One is drafting emails, explanations. To me, it's been very helpful for me at times. I'm a pretty good writer, just without, you know, without the AI assistance. I have found that it is helpful for me as a pretty good writer. I think it's probably more helpful for somebody who's not a pretty good writer. It's probably not very helpful for somebody who's just really sucky at written communications, because you need to communicate to it somewhat of what you know what you're trying to say, and you also need to realize that what it generates is going to be a draft. It's a starting point for you. It really can speed up the process of generating what you're wanting to have at the end of the day. But you always, always, always want to go through it and make sure that it's accurate, and you want it to make it sound like you. Okay. It's very obvious when people know how you communicate and they get an email from you that doesn't sound like you. So they're going to be like, oh, they used AI for that. Sean?
I took a very long ACCRF the other day. I was like, man, this sounds elementary. You know? Copied and pasted on some email and did the help me write the AI thing, and it come out like a scholar would.
Yeah.
All that happens like he's gonna
Right.
Just don't pretend that you're the one that wrote it. Right? If you just say like, look, this was a lot. I use AI to organize the thoughts.
There you go.
Here's what the AI.
I'll type up my whole entire thing, and then I just be like, how to say this professionally.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, it's real helpful like that. Chris was, and well, Sean also, y'all were using, I guess, what was built into Gmail. I think that's awesome that that's available. It makes it super easy, so you don't have to like copy and paste into, a separate AI thing. So yeah, take advantage of that. Just kind of be aware that what it comes up with is not going to sound like you, most likely. So, do what you need to do.
I like when it compliments my work.
Oh, that's so nice.
It's like, oh, you have this very detailed. Maybe you could try this stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's nice. I like when, how the tools tend to be very complimentary. Oh, that's a good question.
But then,
Right?
but then insult you and say, do
Like I said, I've set up mine to be mean because I don't like it when they're too nice.
Oh, okay.
Listen, they'll be nice regardless, right? Like you could give it a pile of dog shit and it'll be like, wow, you're really good at it. Again, it's very confident and it can be extremely confident and bold.
Yeah.
I try mine to always be honest.
Oh, that's
Before I put anything in it, I'm like, whatever, be honest.
Yeah.
Also,
I'll be like, yeah, you're
I
great.
make mine good. Not like you, but just
Yeah.
I make sure like if I'm using it to look up any information, I always have it give me the sources. Every single
Yes.
time. I won't like if it gives it to me without the sources, I'll say like screw you, give me the sources or don't give me anything at all.
Yeah.
I'm mean to the They're not gonna forgive me when they come.
When they come for us, right? So summarization. This has been just a godsend for me. When you get a long article or a website that's just a lot of information, unless you're a really good speed reader, being able to get an AI summary on something is fantastic. And usually it's going to be pretty accurate, I found, with its summarizations. It's not going to hit everything that you might consider to be important, but what I love is that you can read the summary and decide, do I want to read this or not? Right. So that's a really nice time saver. And then, yeah, summarizing meeting stuff is great. Brainstorming, I find it to be pretty helpful for brainstorming. I don't use it for that an awful lot, but when I have, I found it to be helpful. Have y'all used it for brainstorming? Never? A little bit? Okay. Nobody had any particular comments on that? Okay. Comparing options, I'm considering, doing this. It's nice to be able to run it by a tool like this that's pretty much, free and not have to bother somebody else in your life, right? Creating checklist plans and documentation. I haven't used it for that, but I can imagine that could be helpful. Customer facing wording, that could be super helpful. And then anything that needs to be, sound professional. If you're writing up explanations, protocols for things. And again, if you're communicating with a customer, it's nice to have a tool that can kind of clean things up for you. We're working on an AI policy. The short version of it is going to be, don't give AI, sensitive company information. That's kind of the biggest concern that companies are going to have is getting stuff out there. Secondary thing is going to be, realize that it's not gospel truth. So y'all are already probably well ahead of everybody else when it comes to that. Yeah, so we won't. An AI policy will be coming soon. You can use AI to summarize it. All right, so here's an idea for how you can use these tools kind of on a regular basis. That it's just you're giving it 3 points of information. Help me with whatever, stay what you're trying to get. The goal is whatever, the audience is whatever. So again, just let it know who's going to be consuming what it's producing. Most of the time, it's going to be you, right? So here's context. Produce it in this format. You can upload context. Yeah. Ask me any questions you need. It's not going to typically do this unless you ask it to. Ask you questions. So hopefully it's going to become better at that over time. By default, what I found is, particularly with ChatGPT, it's going to give you everything you asked for and so much more. And then it's going to ask you if it can give you even more. So, but it doesn't ask you necessarily, for clarifications all that much. Maybe it's getting better. Chris mentioned that he had some settings, I guess, with ChatGPT and probably with the other tools. You can, if you go into the settings, there's a little box where you can type what you want it to do on a regular basis. So Chris's thing was be mean and probably be short. Bria's probably not asking hers to be mean to her, I would imagine. But that's really useful as you use the tools over time. If you find that you're asking it to do the same thing every time and you're getting annoyed by that, go into your settings and just say, hey, with all your responses, keep it short. Don't ask me to, if you can do 5 more things for me, just give me what I'm asking for and no more. If that's your preference. Some people's preference is they really kind of like that it gives you more than you ask for. Yeah. Okay. Few final thoughts. Curiosity, man. I think that over time, I find that I'm less curious. And so I'm trying to think of how can I cultivate that more in myself. These tools are great for a curious person. Just like a Google search, but on steroids. Not only will it tell you what you're interested in, it'll write a little article for you that's tailored to you. So to learn things, it's a real nice opportunity that we have these tools to learn new things. Be clear, we've covered that. Be willing to iterate, we covered that. It's okay if you don't nail it on the first time. Just go back and say, oh, let me clarify, or, what I'd really like is. So yeah, better thinking leads to better results. All right, any questions or other thoughts or things that you're using the tools? Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
These ChatGPT is an app that WindoWorld is going to install on our computers.
So ChatGPT you can get to just from a website. It's a website. Okay. So if you just go to your your web and say ChatGPT, okay, it'll take you to a link to get to it. Okay. Yes, there's apps.
There's a free version and there's a paid version.
Yeah. And you can literally, out on the way home yesterday, I set my phone down, you put it in conversation mode. Yeah. I literally talked to it the whole way home. Just asking.
Yeah, that's really what Sean's talking about. Is it's an awesome.
I have a lot to share with y'all.
Well, it's an awesome feature because we're not supposed to be doing things like that on the road, but now that these apps have conversation modes, it's really good opportunity to be able to interact with them.
It's still
I talked to them like a rat.
very important not to trust it.
Right.
Well, all it is it's a statistical autocomplete, essentially. It's saying, if you ask it a question, it's saying, based on the context that it's given, what is statistically the most likely next word to come next? Like, that is the very root of how the technology works. So, like, you know, the whole thing, like you're talking about it complimenting you, like, hey, like, I could go in there and pretend to be a really bad person, and it'll be like, oh, wow, you're revolutionary. Oh, and it's like, no, that's like extremely genocidally delusional. Maybe let's not encourage that. You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, just don't invest too much of yourself into it, and like remember that it is just a tool. It is just, it's a, you know, it's a thing. If you know how to use it, if you're very clear, you know, clear in your prompting, clear in everything, and like you're verifying anything that it gives you, then you're probably good.
I was helping my son with his homework, and normally it's algebra, and I'm like, call your sister. But she's a math teacher, and she wouldn't help him, but she doesn't help him. So I pulled it all from ChatGPT, not from the answers, but it broke down exactly how to solve these expressions, equations.
Did you take a picture of the question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
uploaded it, yeah, and then and it would tell me step by step exactly how to figure it out, so I can explain it to him.
Yeah.
That's
It's amazing. That it can-
Wolfram Alpha. Was it Wolfram Alpha?
Oh, right, back in the day.
He was going out of business.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, any ways that you're using it that you think would be helpful to others or just interesting? No other thoughts? All right, y'all be sure to eat up.